And thank you all for being here. It's so nice to see a huge crowd, standing room only. And I'm going to go to this side because you guys have been ignored all morning. So how many of you are familiar with HotelTonight? Show of hands, know about the business. Great, a whole new audience to share this app with. So HotelTonight, I'm just going to spend a couple minutes talking about who we are, since most of you are not familiar, and why I'm talking to you. And then talk about mobile and travel. Obviously, travel is the business that we're in, but more importantly, it's a major, huge, it's one of the biggest categories in e-commerce. It's a very mature industry, and it's one that we have successfully disrupted. And I think a lot of what happens in those, the big incumbent industries can be applied to smaller industries as well. Then mobile apps, the great debate about to build or not to build, and leave you with some best practices. I know many of you are probably either have an app or are considering apps, and just share some of the things that we've learned through our journey that I think apply to any application, any business, any model that you're discussing. So HotelTonight, we were a pioneer in the travel space. We were the very first hotel booking solution to be built from the ground up for mobile only. And the business is quite different. And I get asked a lot, how are you different from Booking.com, or how are you different from Hotels.com? And there are a couple main ways. One is that we don't work with every hotel. We take a very curated approach to our supply, working with only the top-rated hotels in each city. They may range from just basic hotels all the way up to 5-star luxury properties, but they're only the best in each of those categories. And we only display a limited number of properties each day. It's the best deals available in that market. Obviously, because we're mobile only, that also gives us a lot of ability in terms of personalization, geolocating around where, what's closest to you, to provide a lot of contextual reference to customers. And our sales start every day at 9, so it's only on the same day. So you have to wait until 9 a.m. And the reason for that is obviously we've created this marketplace where hotels can take rooms that otherwise would have gone empty. So many hotels, if they wake up with rooms, they're going to go to sleep with rooms that day. And we've created not only this marketplace that combines the demand from customers who may or may not need a room but are interested in staying in a hotel with unsold inventory. And so that's how we kind of come together. We're iOS and Android currently. So the business, we're San Francisco based. That's where the company started. I head up EMEA, so I'm based in London. We have a pretty strong and growing team there. But the business basically is VC backed, so we've had a lot of investment over the years, but started with again, 2 guys in a basement and an idea, and just really grow from there. Right now we're in about 300, we're actually just shy of about 325 in 24 different countries around the world. So in terms of mobile, so people talk a lot about mobile. I think I'll skip through a lot of this because it's been sort of referred to in many of the earlier presentations, and I don't have a lot of time. So it's really, when you look at what's happening in mobile, and many of us can think back to what happened in e-commerce and how quickly that grew and changed our whole world, and mobile is blowing through that. When you look at just the number of not just mobile phones but now smartphones and the penetration of smartphones, it's outstanding. And as of the end of 2013, I think this is amazing. There's now more smartphones in the world than there are personal computers. We can go through this, but there's, Europe is definitely leading the way. We look a lot at the EU5 as sort of the barometer for Europe, and over 50, almost 60% of all mobile devices are smartphones. That's as of the end of 2013. And what's fascinating about mobile is this isn't people choosing to use their mobile phone instead of their computer. It's almost entirely incremental. So we've seen, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, think about where you use your mobile phone. It's while you're commuting, it's on the bus, it's while you're sitting in this room right now and you don't want to listen to this. It's always like places where you didn't have your computer before. So you're just seeing the access and the amount of time spent on the internet is just growing, as you can see, by 83%, almost entirely incremental. And again, travel, again, this very sort of an industry that many would say, it's not good on the mobile phone. You can't look at pictures, you can't search. It's harder to find things if you're searching or browsing for travel, but yet we're seeing a decline in travel searches on desktops while mobile is going through the roof. And then, the search is one thing, but what about bookings, right? So are people actually transacting? And you can see it's still a very small percentage of the overall sort of travel pie. Keep in mind that the travel business is about $500 billion a year, so there's still 10% is pretty good chunk of change. But it's growing really quickly. In 2014, it'll be 20%, and it's estimated to be 30% by this is a conservative estimate. Many are saying by at the end of 2015. 65% of same-day hotel bookings are made via a smartphone today, a platform that wasn't available 3 years ago. In terms of mobile apps, so there's been a great debate, especially I'm sure some of you and many big companies looking at, do we just do mobile web? There's responsive design and all these other options. It's a lot easier to sort of, a lot faster to get to market. But I think this slide is really telling that 86% of time spent on the internet is on mobile apps. Consumers are really voting not just with the time spent, but also with their wallets. People spend more time. It's about 3x in our industry. They're spending in each session. So this is really where customers are gravitating to. And based on all that, it's very easy to sit there and say, hey, obviously we should all go out and build mobile apps. This is where we should move, correct? The challenge is that it's not so easy. Mobile apps are very challenging for a lot of different ways, but the biggest way and the biggest, I think, change from myself and my biggest learning coming from an e-commerce background is that you can't go out and just buy customers. And I think Jobu said it earlier very well, that your product really has to drive, that's going to be what drives your business. You really need to build an experience and build an app, not just that people need, but also that they like and they want to come back. That's really the main driver has been the main driver of our business. We found that these traditional sort of fill the funnel techniques of SEO, SEM just aren't relevant. They're too expensive and they're not relevant. And when you look at kind of the landscape, it's highly competitive. So I took a look at sort of Google Play and iTunes, as those are the two platforms that we operate. There's over 1 million apps on each of those. And you can't buy your way to the top of the list. The way that you're getting there is really on in customer engagement, the number of downloads people have. There's a lot more that goes into it. And in the case of iTunes, it gets even harder because every country, every language has their own platform. So now you not only have to manage your placement and ranking and sort of, in a very different way, but also across multiple languages in multiple countries. Additionally, think about your own phone and how many apps that you have downloaded. The average customer in Europe has about 25 apps downloaded, and almost 30% of apps are downloaded, used once, and then discarded. So the whole business of acquiring customers, of making yourself relevant, and sort of getting people engaged with your app is so much harder than an e-commerce platform where Google search is a really good way to just drive people down. So all of that is to lead to some best practices and some hopefully some takeaways for all of you, and how to avoid some of the pitfalls and how to make sure that you not only are building an app that is relevant to your business, but also one that customers will talk about. Over the biggest sort of source of expansion for HotelTonight is word of mouth. It's people downloading the app, using it maybe in a city, and then telling their friends what a great experience they had. And that's what you'll see with a lot of the top businesses. So just looking quickly at sort of the four main things that customers complain about, there's some sort of easy ways to counter those. Slow load times. So this is pretty much a killer when it comes to apps, especially with the people using them, especially the early tech adopters, tend to be very impatient. This is an on-demand platform. This is an on-demand device, and so if you're sitting there waiting for something to download, you just click out of it, right? There's something else and you've got other things to do. So really making sure that app is lightning fast and laser focused. So focusing on one problem, focusing on something that is going to help your customers. I think most of you, hopefully all of you, recognize all of these companies. And the one thing I think if you look at top-rated apps in every app store, they all have in common is that you can very succinctly explain what they do. So I'd say in 5 words or less, if you can't tell someone what your app does in less than 5 words, it's too complicated. The search. So over 80% of searches on mobile are driven by 2 things, speed and convenience. No one goes past the first page of results. Not no one, but very few people. And so it's really important to make sure that you're making it easy. And in this, I think mobile is a place where you can sacrifice, and customers are willing to give up choice in exchange for simplicity. So one great example of this is Skyscanner. So they were one of the first to allow customers to filter results by mobile sites only. Which sounds pretty intuitive, right? But a lot of meta search sites in the travel industry, you'd find a price you want, you'd try to click through, you're making a book on your mobile site, and you couldn't get anywhere because they didn't have a mobile site that worked. So again, this may mean that you're not seeing all the results. This may mean that you're not seeing the best prices or all of the options available. However, customers are willing to say, I'm okay with that in order to get in and get out and do what I need to do. Third, poor navigation. So making sure that the simplicity and navigation, I think, go hand in hand, but eliminating hurdles and decision points. A lot of the reason why many mobile apps that you'll see are these seamless booking engines and seamless payments is that it makes it faster. When we set out to build HotelTonight and we looked at the incumbents in the space, like Booking.com or Expedia, it took over 3 minutes to make a booking, and you had to make about 100 taps on average. With HotelTonight, you can make a booking with 3 taps and a little swipe of our H bed to make sure you didn't pocket book, and it takes about 8 seconds. So fast improvement. In order to get there, we had to give up some things. So customers don't get to pick how many people in the room. We default to no more than 2 guests. They don't get to choose a room type. It's a run of house room. It's the best room available. And they don't even get to pick the day. It's tonight. So we've really sort of taken the liberty of making some decisions on behalf of our customers. But more and more we're hearing back that the ease, the simplicity, the grace, the trust are things that outweigh those decision points for a same-day booking. And last but not least, and I may even end up under time, is mobile optimization. So again, I think Chris had said about sort of contextual. This is really into the game at this point. Your mobile device is so much more personal, and again, it's been said before, but a personal computer is not personal. You may have people in your family that are using it. You may have whole households. There's no way to tell who exactly is interacting with that device. Whereas with the cell phone, most people, how many of you sleep with your cell phone? I do, every night, and I'm sure many people do. There was some survey that 75% of people said they'd rather have, if they had the choice between eating lunch and keeping their cell phone, they'd pick their phone. Not this group, right? We're going to lunch. So some of the things that make the device very different from your sort of a web experience are geolocation. Again, we know exactly where you are. We know what's around you, and really kind of embracing that special feature and using that to drive relevancy in the search results. People don't want to see everything in a mobile experience. They only have a tiny little phone to look at. So it's about really providing what is relevant to them. The targeting capabilities, again, because this is someone, you know everything about them. You know who their friends are, where they've been, what they've done. It allows you to really target different offers and different information and different content. Not only is that an advantage, but it's super important for engagement and making sure that customers find value in your application. The social enabled aspect of it, you know, not only do you have your camera, but you also have all of your social networks there, and it's super easy to share content. And so that allows great opportunity to spread the word. And so it's really important to create ways and create incentives and create reasons for people to want to share content about your app or their experience, etc., to get the word out through their social networks. And last but not least, you know, the mobile device, and particularly with mobile apps, the fact that you can have locally stored information really improves the overall experience. So mapping is better. Images download faster. You know, all of these things are super important to leverage because, again, that's going to lead to faster speeds and an overall better experience. So that is pretty much it, I think, in summary. You know, mobile is obviously massive, huge. You don't need me up here to tell you that. But it's really about sort of being smart about your strategy, embracing the device, and really, you know, I see so many companies, particularly hotel companies, that are taking their website and just shrinking it down. You know, mobile is not a mini web. It's really a place where companies, no matter who you are, should think about what's the biggest problem I'm trying to solve? Like, how am I going to help the customer? And what's going to, you know, how am I making their life easy through this mobile experience? And by kind of answering that question and building and designing an app that accomplishes that, that's, I think, where you see the greatest amount of success. So thank you very much.
Woohoo!